Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us on the show. I'm laughing because we've been talking to our guest and my co-host here, my partner in crime in doing production work, Mr. Kurt Hahn. I have the honor today of having Luis A. Fuerte. Now, Luis A. Fuerte, I've known about his work for many, many years, but finally we're going to put a face to the work. And his work, we've seen it. Most of us here in California have seen it, and probably throughout the nation. Fundamentally, he was the cameraman for Huell Howser. Huell Howser and the California snippets were going to different parts of California and going in our own backyards and, doing stories on really human, touching stories of little things, little tidbits that people would never imagine. It was really an exposure of really what we have in our own backyard, how richly diverse and cultural we are. But it would not have been possible without the cameraman behind him. And one of those persons was Luis. And Luis was with him for many years, doing a lot of work. And we're going to look at it from Luis's perspective, so much of his production work. And I'd like to ask him to help us promote more youth to follow in his footsteps as a photographer, as an author, as a community leader, and someone that cares about the people. So thank you, Luis, for being on the program.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Luis, let me take you back to your youth, and let's see if we can all remember COVID. Well, blame it on COVID if we can't remember. But going back to our youth, you were in school in the
Yes.
Inland Empire area.
Mhm.
You went to the Navy. You came out. When did you decide to pick up a camera?
Well, that's quite interesting because when I came out of the service, Navy, I realized I had to go to college. And so I decided to go into electronic engineering. And so I started studying that. But then one day on the campus, I ran into a school friend of mine from high school. And she happened to work at the KVCR, the TV station at the college. And we talked, and she offered to give me a tour. And of course, I had never been in a TV station before. So I said, yeah, I'd be happy to, love to see it. So I did. I took the tour and I saw the equipment, the mixers, the tape machines, all the equipment that goes with TV. And I went and stood behind a camera, and it's like, oh my God, some bolt of lightning hit me. And I said, my God, this is what I want to do. And so I changed my major to telecommunications engineering. And, it was a lot of student operation at the college, and we kind of did a little of everything, and which I like doing because I wanted to learn about tape machines. I wanted to learn about lighting and stuff like that. So it was, and then of course, back then to work in the stations in LA and all over, you needed a first class license. So I went to another school and got my third, second, and first class license. And then it's off to hit the bricks and look for a job.
Does that still hold true where people have to have a license?
I don't. It's needed, required for transmission. If you're a transmission operator, or if you're a master control that operates the takes the readings on the transmitter, yeah, it is required, but not so much for being a cameraman or being an editor. It's really not required for that.
Do you
Uh, uh,
happen to remember what license? Because I've got my commercial radio license, but I've been trying to find out what license you need for TV.
For operations,
Yeah.
for transmitter, it's a FCC license, first class license. That's what it's called.
Okay.
wow. Nowadays, I'm thinking about TVs. Are TVs going to die in the near future because everything is, on the field production and
right.
streaming and God knows what else. So, it's
It's a different world, and yeah, it's not like the world I worked in. And when I did finally get a job in Los Angeles, I went to work for KCOP Channel 13,
right.
and I like moving around. So the stations tend to hire you, and then if you're a cameraman, that's all you do. If you're a tape operator, that's all you do. And I kind of like moving around, so I would go around and offer to help somebody and learn how to operate a board, audio board, and doing stuff like that. And so I enjoy doing that, and that's really kind of what I like doing. Not just
Now, going back to when you said you saw the camera and what it was doing in photography, could you sort of tell us more in detail what struck you personally about the idea of being behind the camera?
uh, it's really strange, but when I grabbed that camera and I just something hit me, and I said, "My God, this is what I want to do." Uh, the love and passion for that camera just hit me, and I that's one thing I tell students when I talk to them. I said, have a passion for whatever you want to do, whether it's engineering or teaching or things like this. Have a passion for it and love it. And I just love what I did for so many 48 years, and
48 years.
about 48 years, and no, maybe 42,
Sure.
42 years. And but I just had that passion for television and working behind the scenes.
Now, you went from, see if I understand a little bit of your professional history. You were working in studios inside, conditioned, air conditioned, everything already pre-wired and all that. And yet, for all the scenes that you did with Hugh, you were out in the field where you lost track of all that. You were just a camera on your shoulder or camera on your tripod. How did you make that transition?
Well, when I went to work for after leaving KCOP, because of the system they had, I knew I was only going to be there 3 years, and because when you got to the fourth year, they supposed to give you a big pay raise, and they didn't want to do that. So I started looking for a job. ABC offered me a job. KCT called me, and they asked me, says, "We want you to come and work here, but we want you to work in all aspects of engineering, lighting, editing, operations, stuff like that." And I said, "Perfect. That's what I want to do." And I tell people that as a utility, of course, I started at the bottom, and as a utility, I learned so much, and I got to work with some great lighting designers, lighting directors. Uh, I became an editor, and it was just to me the passion of using lighting, and lighting to me is such an art, and it's a science too, but uh, that allowed me to take all these skills and put it into what they call a one-man band.
One man band.
One man mariachi.
I started with doing some radio shows many, many years ago. And I went in there and there was all kinds of people crossing me and behind me and studio people and blah, blah, blah. All this equipment was everywhere. And they were moving in new equipment and all that. When I finally went back the last time, maybe after 5 years, the place was practically empty. Everything had been digitalized, everything had been computerized, people had been let go in a large quantity. And that just happened in a matter of 5 6 years. And so I can imagine what might have happened to television.
Well, television today is not what it like KCET. We used to have that big lot there on Sunset, and we had big stages, And so a lot of film companies would come and shoot some of their films there pertaining to television. And they would hire us as extras, so like specialized extras to be the cameraman in the studio.
Oh,
And so, I got to work with a lot of celebrities and Joan Rivers. I used to work on her show. Steve Allen, I used to work on his show. Um, Dinah Shore, I used to work with her. So I got to work with a lot of high-end celebrities, and I really learned a lot in how to work with people, how to treat people, and how to respect them, and at the same time, respect you. So it was quite an adventure. It's quite a
tell us more. If you could give us more specifics about that. Go deeper into the idea of what is the personality needed that help you succeed.
I think being pretty laid back and kind of behind the scenes, I knew when to speak up. Like with Huell, when before we started shooting the California Gold, they called me and the secretary says, "Louis, I don't know how to tell you this, but Huell wants you to come and pick up the car and take it in to have it serviced." And I said, "What?" I said, "Give me Huell's phone number." I called him and I talked to Huell. I said, "Huell, I'm the camera guy, the lighting guy, the sound guy, and that's all I do. If you need somebody to take your car in to have it serviced, then you need to find someone else." And he was real quiet and says, "Okay, I'll take it in." So in a way that was good because it's kind of set our boundaries. I didn't want I didn't want to be in front of the camera and I didn't want him behind the camera. So that way we started working together and we respected each other. And if there was something that I saw that was not working right, I could stop him and say, "Heel, this is not working." And he would listen to what he was saying. I'd say, "Okay, I know where to pick it up." So we pick it up from a different angle and make it look like a two-camera shoot. So,
Tricks of the trade.
right. So, yeah, it was, but at the same time, we had respect for each other. And that's the thing that I learned when I was a utility guy for a lot of these big productions and stuff like that. I'd see what some guys would do and say and stuff like that. And I said, "That's not right. You have to respect other people at the same time you want them to respect you." But yeah, it was quite an adventure.
Did you ever have a situation, any issues confronting the fact that you were Latino and doing this kind of work?
Oh yes, it's when I first started, I had one supervisor that just didn't care for me, and I don't know why. He just didn't like me. So that's when I would run around and volunteer to do different jobs and things like that, just to get away from him. Like that. But at the same time, I, you know, in spite of their feelings and things like that, I respected them and I treated them properly, and but I didn't let them cross my line. And it's something that you just have to learn how to do. But yeah, it's went through all that.
But I'm assuming that, at the end of the day, when you said that isn't right, I envisioned that you could see how it could be done better, and that ultimately all of us, the audience, could benefit from it coming up to a higher standard, and we could all appreciate the work better.
Right, yeah, and I had situations where one particular actor, I was supposed to go over and shoot a little 30-second PSA with him, and I won't mention his name, but knocked at his door, and he comes down and he says, "What do you want?" And I said, "I'm from TCT, sir. I'm here to record your 30-second spot." So he says, "Well, I don't want your equipment in my house. I said, okay, where would you like to do this? And he says, well, let's do it out here. I said, okay, sir, give me 10 minutes to set up and I'll be ready to go. So it's just, you run into people with attitudes, and you just have to know how to carry yourself and treat. But yeah.
Mr. Han, I can read the question in your mind here.
Which one is that? No, I remember when I first started teaching high school, my first 3 years, I was teaching a class called video production.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea, no clue whatsoever about how to do video production. And I had to learn everything from scratch. And all the stuff that you had to do, I had to do with no background knowledge on how to do it. And it was a whole lot less fun. It was a real pain in the other end. Once I was told that they were going to drop the class, and I pretended like my feelings were hurt. I started hooking up with Mr. Sanchez and doing our own video work. And it was a lot more fun because I didn't have to conform to somebody else's conceptions of what we were doing.
Right.
Plus the fact that neither one of us knew what we were doing and learning as we went made a whole lot more fun.
I'll tell you what, thanks to you, you identified some students who were still in high school, and they literally put the studio together. They were literally telling us what they needed, how to do it, what software we needed. It was amazing. And I just said, you know what, if I listen to these kids, I know we're going upstairs. And they just put everything together. And it was outstanding what they understood. We were learning from them on a daily basis.
Well, that's great, because I have students, because I did Valley College would hire me to do some productions, and they'd go out and shoot something and it would be a total disaster. They'd come back with no sound, and it'd be like a 4 or 5 man crew. And I said, no. I'll go out and shoot the stuff for you, but just give me one of your students and I'll work with him. And I have students from Valley College that still stay in touch with me, and they're now working in production and stuff like that. But I do a lot of counseling as far as how to keep your costs down, how to make it do the production without the 10-man crew and things like that. So I do a lot of that. Yeah. And but I love working with students. They're just great.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, what I found was when you find the right students who want to do what you want to do, it's a lot of fun. But when they just put a bunch of people in the class and say, you're going to make this happen, it's not fun.
Right. No, and there's good students and bad students. There's students who are there because it's television.
Yeah.
And there's students that are there that just love it, like I did. I loved it, and so I would always try to learn something and as much as I could. And so I can tell in working in universities and places like this where students, and I can tell right away who are the ones that are there for the ego.
Yeah.
I'm a cameraman, and some that I really want to learn. So yeah.
I'm going to react a little from what I've heard so far from you, Luis. It sounds to me, as I hear all your different statements, that you really are a constant learner. That you're willing to say, oh, what's over there? And I don't know. You go over there and you try to learn, whether you do it or you're sitting back and watching it. It seems to be one of your skills.
I just, the older I get, the more I find out I don't know so much. And I'm always learning. I love learning, and I'll ask questions, and whether it's TV or whatever. And so just like when the book thing came up, it's like I knew nothing about it. writing a book. And so that was quite a learning experience for me. And I'm still learning. Uh, and I learn from other people. And, so that I'm constantly learning.
Are you learning more by sort of by doing, or are you doing it by reading, or you asking, going to certain people? What's your favorite way of learning?
Well, it's many ways, and but I've met in this adventure that I've had, I've met a lot of people, and that just love the show, and so I've learned a lot in meeting different people from different nationalities. And I have friends that are Arabic, Japanese, all kinds. And so I've learned a lot from different cultures. And to me, that's so exciting to learn from other cultures and other people. You know.
So you were the cameraman, but the stories were going through the camera and into your soul.
Right, right. And the thing that I love is, I love shooting, and with Huell, uh, being an editor, a lighting director, doing all this stuff, I I'm editing it in my head as I'm shooting, and I'm saying, okay, he's not going to use this, he's going to use that, uh, uh, or if you see him, sometimes I'd have to tell him, Huell, if you see me moving around a little bit around like this, it's because I'm adjusting for lighting or something like that. And so once in a while in the show, you'll see him looking out of the corner of his eye, and it's because he's watching me move and making adjustments like this. And then I'm editing in my head so I have all these things going through my head. And a lot of people say, you shot this story 71 stories up in the tallest building west of the Mississippi with a window washer. Weren't you scared? I said, I didn't have time to be scared. I'm trying to get the shots and the sound and all this. And but now I do get flashbacks on some of these adventures I went on.
You wonder, what the heck was I doing up there? Never thought about that. The idea that you do things at the time, but then you say, what was I thinking back then, or
So
something?
I mean, some of the shows you see where Huell is actually scared. We're up at these big hangars up in where they used to down. I forget where it's over here. These big, huge blimp hangars.
Oh, Tustin?
Because yeah,
Yeah.
and we climbed all the way to the top, and we're up there, the hangars and all that, and it and Huell, you could see that he's a little scared. I'm scared too, but I'm editing, I'm lighting, and all these crazy things that are going through my head to just keep the story simple and it's just to me that's what I love.
So was it your idea to go up there?
Oh no, it was not. To the top of the Golden Gate Bridge. I didn't know we were going to go to the top of the Golden Gate Bridge, and all the way to the top and the towers. And the only thing I wanted to know when we would go on a shoot, is it going to be raining? Is it going to be hot? Is it going to be windy? And that's all I needed to know. And one thing that Huell would say is he didn't want to know too much about the story either, because he wanted that, oh my God, that really happened? Oh, that's amazing. That type of reaction.
Right.
And so,
it was genuine.
Yeah.
It's a genuine reaction. You really didn't know. It wasn't acting.
So we didn't know, we knew we were going to the Golden Gate Bridge.
Right.
But I didn't know we were going to go in planes. I didn't know we were going to go in boats. So, but I had my gear. I was always prepared. So
were you editing on the road when, let's say, you did the shoot? I don't know. I'll use San Francisco as the example. Okay, so you finished. You're coming back to LA, maybe by car or something, and you're editing on your camera, or you would just bring it all home, raw footage, and then do it here?
It's just the raw footage. I'm editing in my head as to, okay, he's going to cut it right here, or stuff like that, or he's talking about something, and then I said, okay, I need to get shots of this, I need to get shots of that, B-roll shots. I need to get sound effects, so something like that. So this is what's going through my head. And so the editor, when he goes into editing, he has all the material he needs because I tell you, these producers, if you don't get what they need, they go into editing and they'll crucify you because, well, he didn't tell me to get that. And, so you have to give him all that. And being an editor myself, I said, okay, he needs this, needs that, and stuff like that. But that's what I love doing.
Wow. So it didn't sound to me like you had a regular 8 to 5 job.
No, never 8 to 5. The only time it was 8 to 5, it was if I was in operations as a master control engineer or uh, tape operator or something like that. Then it would be an 8 to 5 job. But other times, I mean, I'd be gone for 10 days, a week. Uh, and then not only did I work with Huell, I worked with other producers. And so I speak Spanish. A lot of Spanish companies would hire me to go shoot in Mexico, South America, Spain. And then the Philharmonic, the Symphony Orchestra, liked my work. So then they hired me to go shoot with them in Japan, Germany, all over the place. So
Wow. I
yeah,
didn't know that at
I
all.
was I was thought I was going to be a musician because I studied the trumpet since the 6th grade, and then I switched to the French horn. So I thought I was going to go into classical music, but then when I went into the Navy, that kind of ended that career.
I don't think they needed that in the Navy. They need somebody to shoot it.
Well, I have to ask the question, being a Navy vet myself. What did you do in the Navy, sir?
I was a radarman.
That's the same as me.
Really? Oh,
yeah. Well, radarman became an operations specialist in the early 70s.
Wow.
That's what I did.
Yeah, I was on the USS Wilson and USS Radford.
Yeah.
446.
Yeah, well, I was on the USS Chicago.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Last of the Baltimore class cruisers before they converted them over.
Yeah, well, my home port was Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. So I tell people, well, someone had to protect the hula girls.
Yeah.
Did you do it well?
It's the best I could do.
I'm going to ask you a very difficult question in the sense that, you have a plethora of stories. What are your 2 favorite stories that stick out of your mind of your career?
I tend to look at things a little differently than, the shows where maybe I was a little more creative. I did more, shot it in such a way that to me, it's more artistic. Uh, those tend to be the shows that I kind of look at. But of course, the Golden Gate Bridge is a very popular, well-known show, and it won an award by the LA Press Photographers Association. So it's yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I look at it differently.
I can imagine you had no real idea what you were getting yourself into.
Yeah, you're right. I just loved, and I did a lot of studio work. That Emmy right there, that was we shot a concert in San Francisco with Luciano Pavarotti, the great tenor, and the opera La Gioconda, and we won a national Emmy, and I have 4 others Hollywood Emmys, and for different things that I did. But yeah, it was. I got to see a lot of stuff. I did stuff with the LAPD, behind the scenes type thing, and said, man, that's a rough life. So,
I have a question for you, sir. Let's put it this way: the high school student, or just soon to graduate high school student, who has that passion to let's produce. Let's put it that way: just produce, whether it be film or audio or video, but to do his own thing.
right.
What would you tell him? Where would he start?
I'd say start from the bottom and learn the different types of engineering traits and things like that, and uh, what it takes to put a story together, and how big of a crew do you need, things like this. And it's, understanding what it takes to put the story together. And that's what a producer, and I can produce because I understand what it takes to put a story together, how much equipment I need, how many people I need, how to make it cost effective. And so that's the things that I would recommend.
I've always been behind telling kids that the way you start is to start, start small, start with what you know, and just keep learning and getting better and better. And I mean, I've learned audio, video, books on CDs.
Right.
I took a hiatus for a couple of years from broadcasting on my studio, and I'm rebuilding everything. And my God, I forgot everything. Starting over from scratch now, but it's that never-ending learning curve, and that's what I tell kids. And I just wanted to see if that was what you told them. So.
Oh yeah, I say, learn from the bottom up.
Yeah.
And like, I never thought I'd go into lighting and, just put a light up and that's it. No, it's a science, and it's, to me, it's an art, and it's just so understanding that I know what it takes to put a production together, editing and stuff like that.
Another word comes up in our conversation, creativity. Are you born with it, or did you develop it?
I think I developed it. I had to study, and I've always loved the arts. Uh, I've always been into the arts, so music, and I wish I would have gone into singing, but I was such a scaredy cat kid. I was bashful. I was afraid to be in front of an audience. And I wish I would have studied opera. I finally, 10 years ago, I said, you know what, I'm going to take lessons, and because I always wanted to sing. So I auditioned for this teacher, and I'm a bass baritone, and I wish I would have sung opera, and I just love it. And
Do you want us to put some few seconds into the show and let you do it now?
what's
Hey, I'm doing production here. Come on, work with me here.
Yeah.
No, you got to work up your voice. You got to work it up.
Yeah, I know. But all the arts I love. I always wanted to sketch. I always wanted to sketch, and I was just afraid to pick up a pencil and sketch. And finally, I met this artist in Mexico, and I took a class with him, and I started sketching. And then for my final test, they get a portrait of a person, and they put it upside down, and you have to sketch it right side up. So I did it, and he says, man, you can sketch. So it's just a matter of doing it. And, so sometimes I'll sit out on the patio, have a glass of wine and pencil and paper, and do some sketching. So
You're a person of many, many, many talents. I can see that. You're a renaissance man.
well, I'm a Latino.
We have to invent sometimes on the spur of the moment. That's it. One last question I have. I know, we're running out of time, but your skills, your knowledge, your attitudes, your perspective of life, where do you think you inherited from someone in your familia?
I think I got that from my tita, my grandmother. That's what I call her, my tita. And she, because both my parents worked, and when I was a little kid, and so my tita would have me do all these little chores, and first thing she make me do is put an apron on. You always wear an apron, and to do chores, wash dishes, clean the table, stuff like that. So I would do that, and my reward at the end of the day was a little taco. She'd make a little burrito for me.
A
So that
little
was
what?
a burrito.
Oh, a
You
burrito. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And that was my reward for helping her clean the kitchen, wash dishes, and stuff like that. So to this day, I walk into the house and the first thing I do is put on an apron. I have more aprons than most women have, but it's just, and my parents were just wonderful. My dad in Mexico, and
Where were they from?
my dad from Ciudad Mexico, la capital. And so, yeah, and he worked very hard. He became a citizen, and uh, I love both my parents and my tita.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Mr. Han, final question, and then we'll get into closing statements.
I have one final question. What next?
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Just keep at it. Do what I can. Like I mentioned, I turn 80 in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And I'm doing okay. I wish I would have started playing golf earlier, but hey, so I'm still learning. I'm still learning, and anything I can learn, I'm thankful.
Closing statements. Looking back at your fantastic career, and it's not even the career, it seems more like your adventures in your career as well. I don't know, I there's so much in my head. I just want to give it back to you. Your closing statements.
Well, I'm so blessed and thankful for the life. I've made mistakes, but the thing is not to repeat them again. And I'm thankful for being blessed with such a great career. And to me, it's about giving back and helping others. And, it's good to have this, but that's not going to solve your problems. So to me, it's about giving back, helping our community and our kids, and making it a better life.
Yeah.
Amen. I want to thank you. Luis. I hope you continue, because whatever you touch, you seem to enjoy it, and then you are able to influence it and make it better. And thank you very much for your time.
Yes, I have to say thank you. And I'm going to say this, and please take no offense of any stretch, but I can't thank Huell, but I can thank the show and what you've done for inspiring me to do a lot of crazy, stupid things that I've done, and mistakes, and the learning, and the not afraid to try, and the go forth and do spur of the moment stuff. And I got to say thank you for that, because it was one of the big inspirations to doing what I'm doing.
And I'll vouch for him, because I remember a lot of times he said, "What would Huell do on this one?" I said, "I don't know," and you would say it all the time. It cracked me up.
Yeah, well, we all make mistakes, and not to repeat them again, and learn from your mistakes. And there's no such thing as a perfect world, but yeah, I made my mistakes, and okay, I'm not going to do that again. But,
well,
Yeah, and you just move on.
I don't feel right about repeating my mistakes just once. I got to do it several times before I realize.
I think we're losing it here, guys. No. Luis, thank you very much. And I look forward to having you on future shows. And hey, it's just your show, but your time and has been an inspiration, not only through your work, but also through your words today.
And I got to say thank you again, sir. This is just so cool. I can't tell you how cool this is. I got to say thank you. You know.
Well, thank you, and everybody stay safe and be blessed.
Igualmente. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. We had the pleasure and the honor of having Luis A. Fuerte, who did the camera work here for Huell Howser and much, much more. We learned that today. I wish you continued success, but you know, I've learned a lot from your words today, and I'll take them to heart. And another 40 years, dude. Hang in there. Adios.
Adios. Gracias.